Welcome back to the deep dive. You gave us the sources, and our mission today is to really get into one of the most practical tools we've seen in modern drug discovery, Combocat. We're looking at how this open source framework just completely tackles a classic bottleneck in combination screening. And if you've ever been in a lab, you know this problem. You want to test two drugs, okay, say across 10 different doses each. That's a 10 by 10 matrix, so 100 measurements, that's manageable. But then you try to scale it. You want to look at 100 pairs, 1,000 pairs, and all of a sudden the work just grows quadratically. It stops being biology, and it starts feeling like this crushing experimental tax.
Oh, it's an impossible workload.
Yeah.
It really is. If you try to exhaustively screen a library, the measurement load just crushes your budget, your timeline, everything. And that's exactly why Combocat is such a practical response. It promises to cut the physical screening measurements by what, 90%?
90%, while keeping the high-resolution data you actually need. A 90% reduction in lab work is...
Well, it's revolutionary. It shifts the entire paradigm, right? It lets you do what the paper calls screen wide, then validate deep. We're going to see that idea play out.
Precisely. And it gets there by stitching together two key capabilities. First, you've got the wet lab component, which is high-precision acoustic dispensing. And second, you have the dry lab part, machine learning inference that predicts all the missing data. So today, we're going to step through this whole system, the hardware, how the sparse mode works, and the results they've already gotten.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we even get to the AI, what exactly is Combocat? How is it structured?
Fundamentally, it's an open source software stack, but it treats screening not as, a bunch of separate steps, but as one integrated end-to-end system. It gives you a standard path from your compound plate all the way to a final synergy ranking. And it has two distinct modes. First, there's dense mode.
Think of this as your reference standard. It measures every single dose pair in that full 10 by 10 matrix, all 100 points. You use this when you need absolute top-tier reference data for just a few pairs.
And that's usually done in a 384 well plate format, right?
Exactly. But then you have the real game changer, the sparse mode.
Right. And in sparse mode, instead of running all 100 of those dose pairs, you only measure a tiny fraction.
A very specific subset. Just 10 dose pairs. And then you let the predictive model fill in the rest of the grid.
And that's where you get that 90% reduction. It makes high-throughput screening actually, achievable.
What's so important for you to grasp here is that this is AI grounded in pure practicality. This isn't some vague story about, generative AI. This tool is built around real physical constraints.
Plate sizes, real volumes.
Exactly. 384 well for dense, the ultra-miniaturized 1536 well for sparse. The economics of scale are just baked into its design from the start.
Which brings us to the big skeptical question. How can you just skip 90% of the data and not completely sacrifice the result? I mean, if a drug combination has some weird non-linear synergy at, dose 3 of drug A and dose 8 of drug B, won't you just miss it entirely?
That's the core challenge, and the answer is this combination of smart experimental design and very supervised modeling. So to predict that full 10 by 10 matrix, sparse mode only measures two things. First, you have to measure the single-agent dose responses, so how each drug works on its own across 10 doses. That's your baseline.
Okay, that makes sense.
And second, you measure only the diagonal of that combination matrix.
The diagonal method. It sounds simple, but it's brilliant for scale. So you're not trying every possible ratio. You just measure the one-to-one pairings, dose 1 of drug 1 with dose 1 of drug 2, dose 5 with dose 5, all the way up.
All the way to dose 10. You get 10 observed combination points, and that's it. That simplicity is what lets you scale this to thousands of pairs.
So now the AI part, the inference engine, it steps in.
Right. It looks at the 20 single-agent values, 10 for each drug. And those 10 diagonal combination values. That's 30 measured points in total. And from those 30 points, it has to predict the other 90.
The 90 missing spots on the grid.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is how they did it. It's not one giant black box model.
Which you might expect.
You might, but instead they built an ensemble of 90 separate regression models. 90. You can think of it like they hired 90 independent specialists, and each one is responsible for filling in one and only one specific missing cell in that grid.
That feels so much more stable. Like it's less prone to some kind of catastrophic failure than one big, complex model.
It absolutely is. And the training is all supervised. It's all grounded. They took their massive, dense reference data set, all those fully measured matrices, and trained the ensemble using things like XGBoost.
And the performance was good.
The performance was remarkable. They reported a median R-squared value of 0.947 across all 90 of those models.
Okay, so for those of us not wrestling with stats daily, what does an R-squared of 0.947 really mean?
It's basically a confidence score. It tells you how well your inputs, those 30 measured points, predict the output, which is that missing cells value. An R-squared of 1.0 would be perfect.
So 0.947 is?
It's strong. It's like saying, when we reconstruct this matrix, we are right about 95% of the time.
And the end result isn't just a spreadsheet of numbers.
Yeah.
The system gives you a fully reconstructed response surface, right? That whole 10 by 10 grid.
Yes. And once that grid is complete, Combocat automatically calculates the synergy, usually with the Bliss independence model, and then ranks all the pairs for you.
That really is the pragmatic achievement. It's imputation filling in the blanks, but with this incredibly strong experimental backbone. You're not guessing.
Not at all. You're creating a predictive ranking layer that's based on measured biology.
That's compelling.
Yeah.
But it also means that all this computation only works because of the physical precision on the front end. So let's talk about the hardware that makes this whole thing possible. The sources are really clear on this. The tool is tightly integrated with its hardware. It's all built around acoustic liquid handler technology. So anyone listening who hasn't seen one, what is that? Why is it so critical here?
Acoustic dispensing it's just amazing. It uses sound waves focused ultrasound to eject these incredibly tiny droplets of liquid. We're talking nanoliters. And it does it with no physical contact.
No tips, no pins.
Nothing. And that non-contact high-precision ability is the economic engine behind the whole thing. It's what allows for the miniaturization that makes Combocat work. So dense mode uses 200 nanoliters of compound per well in a 384 well plate. But Sparse Mode, this is where the magic is, it shrinks that down to just 20 nanoliters in a high density of 1536 well plate.
So wait, that's a 90% reduction in your reagent use.
It is.
That matches the 90% reduction in measurements. That's the cost saving that lets you screen thousands of pairs.
That's the whole ball game. But, there's a practical note here. Because you're shifting from 200 down to 20 nanoliters and changing the plate, the sources do mention you can sometimes see a slight shift in the observed potency. It's a trade-off.
A trade-off for that massive gain in scale.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the Echo hardware running. Let's turn to the software side, the installation. This is where the computational listener starts to lean in.
The software side is surprisingly streamlined. It's basically an R package and a pre-trained model file. You just need the standard stuff-R, the DevTools package, and internet connection. The code itself is all open source on GitHub.
Okay.
But here is the critical part. You have to go to the project site and download the huge deployable model file and the specific Echo hardware protocols.
So you don't have to train that complicated 90 model thing yourself.
No, you don't. You just download the expertise that's already baked into the model, you load it into the R package, and you're ready to start inferring.
That really lowers the barrier to entry for a lab that has the equipment. So we've got the hardware, we've got the software. What's the actual workflow like?
It's broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the single agent screening. You run each drug by itself across its 10 doses.
And that data is only generated once.
Only once. It's not remeasured for every single pair. You just map it computationally later on.
And then phase 2, the main event, the sparse combination screen.
This is where you measure only those 1-to-1 diagonal dose pairs for every combination you want to test. And the scale here is just immense. I mean, they give you formulas for plate planning, anchored on the fact that you can fit 135 unique drugs on a single plate.
Which translates to thousands of pairs in a really small footprint.
It does. And then phase 3 is all computational. Prediction and ranking. You feed your sparse data, the single agents and the diagonals into the R package. The Ensemble model runs, infers the missing 90 points, computes the synergy, and spits out a ranked list.
You get the full 10 by 10 surface for the cost of a 10-point measurement.
That's the value proposition.
Of course, when you're relying this much on inference, validation becomes the most important part of the story. How do we know these reconstructed matrices aren't just, computational fantasy?
They built a really solid foundation for it. They used the dense mode to generate this massive high-quality reference dataset, 806 combinations, over 290,000 measurements. And they showed the assay quality was strong, with a mean Z-prime score of 0.747.
And again, for anyone listening, Z prime is just an industry measure of how robust and reliable your assay is, and 0.747 is an excellent score. It proves the underlying experiment is sound.
It is, and they also built in a really detailed QC pipeline to throw out noisy data. They had specific thresholds for standard deviation, for monotonicity, things that ensure the model is only learning from good, clean input.
Did they do a biological sanity check?
They did. Their dense screen correctly identified the classic synergistic pair, sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, in E. coli, so it handles known biology correctly.
But the real test is confirming the new hits, right?
Right. And that's what they did. They rescreened 40 combinations, the top 30 hits from Sparse Mode, plus 10 random ones, and they confirmed that the vast majority of those top-ranked pairs showed strong synergy when they retested them in the full reference quality dense mode.
So the predictions actually held up.
They held up under scrutiny, yes.
Which brings us to the payoff. What does this level of verified scale actually enable in the real world? The headline result is just staggering. Using Sparse Mode, Combocat screened 9,045 unique drug combinations in a single neuroblastoma cell line.
9,000.
The paper describes it as the largest number of unique combinations ever tested in a single cell line to date.
And that just completely changes the strategy for a research group. Before, you had to pick your shots so carefully, maybe test a few dozen pairs. Now you can test thousands.
The strategy flips from narrow testing to screen wide, then validate deep.
Exactly, using the inference as your super efficient filter.
Okay, so let's do the quick hype check. What are the limitations? What are the constraints on this?
The limitations are mostly practical ones. First, the quality of your training data is the absolute ceiling. You have to keep doing holdout testing. Second, like we touched on, that shift to tiny volumes in the 1536 well plates can sometimes cause small physical shifts in potency.
And what about the math itself, the synergy models?
That's a key constraint. So Combocat supports both Bliss and Loa models, but they reported that the Loa model was undefined in over 60% of the Sparse Mode combinations.
Why is low so much harder to calculate here than Bliss?
Well, the Loa model needs to find dose-equivalent effects between the two drugs, and that's just really hard to do accurately when you have sparse data. You might not have even measured the points you need.
Ah, I see.
Bliss, on the other hand, is just based on the expected product of the two single agent effects. It's much more robust when you only have a few data points. It becomes the practical default.
So to be clear, this is an inference tool. It's not generative AI.
Not at all. It doesn't invent new molecules. It just makes you unbelievably better at asking and answering high-resolution questions about the molecules you already have, because it buys you scale without giving up dose resolution.
So when you put it all together, what Combocat really does is break this long-standing trade-off in drug discovery. For decades, you had to choose. Test a few pairs with high resolution, or test many pairs with low blurry resolution. Combocat says you can have both. It keeps the resolution and just demolishes the experimental load.
It does. And what's really forward-looking is that it's designed for community improvement. They explicitly ask people to contribute their anonymized, dense data sets back to the project.
To make the model better for everyone.
Exactly. To continuously retrain and refine that 90-model ensemble for the whole field.
So if you're working in this space, there are clear ways to engage.
Absolutely. If you're a wet lab team with an acoustic handler, you should install the package and run a small screen. If you're a computational team, you can treat this as a new interface layer to generate full response surfaces. And if you're a team that's just sitting on existing dense combination data, you should really consider contributing it.
Combocat doesn't replace good experimental design, it just scales it exponentially. So consider this blend of hyper-efficient physical measurement and smart AI inference. What's the complex, rate-limiting bottleneck in your professional or personal world that could be solved by a similar approach? What could you unlock if you could measure just a tiny, smart fraction of something and then accurately infer the rest? Think about that scale. We'll see you next time for the next Deep Dive.